Hello everyone, Superman here, and I just wanted to come to you in this video real quick just to um, talk about all the builds that I have and utilize because I know I've been getting a lot of, or more or less, I've been getting a lot of people asking me about my builds and like what builds do I utilize and how to utilize them, what my spec is and everything like that. So I just wanted to make a video real quick on a revamped version of all my builds because I do have a playlist of all my Earth builds that I utilize, but I did end up changing them and switching them around just slightly, not too much, but I'm going to just basically give you an updated version of all the builds that I utilize. And first and foremost, I'm going to start off with my main build, aka my NPC slash Rebirth Superman build. More or less, actually, the real name of this build is my iconic battle tank loadout build. So as you can see, here is I'm going to show my loadout first. But my loadout is basically inspired by the Legends PvP NPC Superman loadout and the same duration of what moves and buttons that he has. So I just don't have the super breast that he has. So I put a gemstone shield on because I never go without a shield when it comes to a build. So this loadout consists of gemstone shield, low pressure, basically mimicking his vacuum bubble if you were to queue into Legends PvP version or queue into Legends PvP and see his loadout. I will show that in the video as well to show more of a specification um, on what I'm talking about. Then I go with localized tremor and then swoop attack, and then obviously the most obvious ones, freezing breath and heat vision. Um, Now, my stat points for this one, I'm spec super powered, and then I have my critical healing chance and attack. And basically, to put it simply, I have all these crits, all four of these crits maxed out. So I have both damage crits, so my critical attack chance and critical attack damage, and then I have my critical healing chance and critical healing magnitude maxed out. And then I go down to the bottom and I have my might and power at 128 currently, health at 128, and dominance at 127. Obviously, I do have 3 skill points that I can utilize, and I will most likely put dominance at 128 and spread them out evenly until obviously I get to a maxed out point when I get to more skill points. Um, for my allies that I utilize crypto, obviously, hence me being on the iconic end when it comes to this loadout. So this loadout is literally like a mess around loadouts where it's like you can utilize it in PvE when it comes to like open worlds or certain in certain case scenarios soloing open world depending on the boss. In certain case scenarios, or more or less the most case scenarios that I use it for, you can utilize it for on duty soloing or on duty single player missions. But I use crypto here for a single target ally because he's obviously my best friend, my dog, so gotta utilize him. I use Batman, and the reason why I use Batman, but I use his I use his world greatest detective for a different reason. This is kind of something I've came up with because with being Superman, you do have telescopic vision and ultra acute hearing. So I kind of made Batman with his reveals, investigation, briefing, and collection nodes to your mini map increase the collection speed, basically making that like anything that shows up on the map is basically like my ultra acute hearing because if you kind of think about it when it comes to investigations, briefings, and collections, you can hear them when you get close enough to them. And they do illuminate a noise or a sound when you get close enough. So I have that being that case scenario. And the telescopic vision aspect is it being like popping up on the map and like knowing exactly where they're at. Um, I do have Professor Zoom, obviously, hence the increased movement speed by 20% while out of combat. So basically, making my out of combat movement speed, as an example, me flying around like this faster than it's normally supposed to be from when you first start off or when you get your flight skill point in there. He does increase your movement speed, so I have that there. For gear and spec, I'm obviously in tank role. If you look at the top left, I am in tank role for this to throw that out there, and then I do have tank gear on. So this is a tank build to have Superman be on that tankier side, but I do have it on the damage aspect as well. Um, I have Omega Hedron as my first artifact because of the fact that it is a Kryptonian based artifact. Like if I scroll down here and if you look at the bottom yellow coloring or lettering, it does say Kryptonian, so I do have it on there for that reasoning. And the name of the skill itself being Energizing Aura. Basically, putting the reference to Superman having a biogeneric aura when it comes to his Kryptonian DNA or genetics. Like he does have an aura that illuminates off of him, to where that's what makes him bulletproof and everything like that. And with the aura, um, that's how he absorbs solar energy and solar light and everything like that. So with Omega Hedron and what it does, it's using a superpower in combat while between 25% and 75%. Power increases your base power regeneration by 15% for 6 seconds. And that's basically, for my aspect, I see it as that's the sun energy absorption. You know what I mean? And using a superpower will grant bonus might and precision based on your current power for 6 seconds. So basically stating the more power I have and the more my power stays maxed out while I'm gaining it, I get stronger throughout the time. Um, but obviously the 6 seconds or 15% and whatever the case may be is when you obviously level it up more. My second artifact that I'm using is Omega Totality. The only reason why I have Omega Totality here is because at one point, if I were to sit and expand the loadout, you will see the Omega Totality activate on my eyes, basically stating, or, okay, like that. So basically, I have Omega Totality on my eyes to specify heat vision eyes, or whenever Superman gets mad, he has heat vision show up. So that's that. Same with the Legends PvP Superman. When he gets to a certain health, you'll see his eyes start to glow with heat vision. So that's basically what that's for. And then I have Red Tornado. And the reason why I have Red Tornado is because not by what it does, but basically what it does, in a sense to where at one point, if I were to sit here and take enough damage, it will pulse out a solar flare, in a sense, or a red tornado. The distribution, you've probably seen it in a lot of my videos or some of my videos to where I'm soloing, and then you'll just see that big whirlpool of a red tornado start siphoning around my character. That's basically red tornado's activation when I get hit a certain amount of time or take a certain amount of damage. Um, and that's basically what that is. And that's basically my solar flare. Because in the command ship raid in Brainiac Returns episode, the Superman NPC does have a solar flare move that he uses while we fight him when he's in his controlled form. That's basically what my Red Tornado uses. Um, that's basically this build. There's nothing much more to it. Um, I kind of threw this out there as well, but I do have a trinket called Explosive Detonator, which is the same thing as Localized Tremor. And the reason why I have Explosive Detonator is because the Legends PvP Superman NPC, he does the move like this. When I go into it to show you, he does have a move like that that does juggle the enemies up into the air. That's basically what Explosive is for, to have that aspect of it. Kind of an iconic thing that I came up with. But that's this build. Um, my next build is my DPS build. I didn't do too much to this build other than make it a DPS. So like loadout is the same as my iconic NPC loadout, and the reason why I have it as the same thing is just to again be more on the iconic end when it comes to being a Superman. And it's the classics, so I had to do it for the classics if I did it for the current NPC as well. So this is basically my Legends PvP Superman style, and Superman fit, and the original classic underwear fit. So I have the loadout being the exact same thing. The only difference is it's DPS, so it's full DPS. I have Omega Totality, um, Candle of Neuron for crit stacks, and then I have the transformation card as well for critical chance and magnitude and everything like that. But it's not too different. And then I have what allies? I do have Cyborg and Professor Zoom. I think I only have Cyborg here because Earth is a very power hungry kind of power. Like it takes a lot of power easily, and like that's another reason why I have Omega Hedron onto my other build, my iconic battle tank build. Um, this is just for the power aspect, so I don't run out of power quickly. And then I have Professor Zoom here, like for the movement speed. Like for this build, it's not like a big I'm going to try to be the top DPS kind of build. Like this is literally just like another iconic build, and then I can have that option to be a DPS if I wanted to. So if you want to build that's iconic in DPS that you don't want to take seriously, because I know there's a lot of people in this game that do like to be the top DPS when it comes to being a player in this game and everything like that. So my build is basically like I'm not trying to be the top DPS, but this does hit hard. You know what I mean? This will hit for the millions, if you wanted to. Um, my next build, I have my full tank build to be more specific, because I do have another build I'll show after. That's in a sense to where you can utilize it as a tank build, but it's also a PvP, and then you can technically use it as like a hybrid. You'll see. Um, but this build is kind of different. And oh wait, you know what? If I go back to my DPS build, I'm gonna show the specs. For the specs for the DPS build, it's super powered and then literally just full DPS. So both crits, and then the might and power is maxed out. And then I have whatever extra going into health, since I have all my DPS aspects maxed out. And allies, obviously, Cyborg, Reverse Flash, and Crypto. Now, I will throw this out there as well. Now thinking about it, for the meta genes and the augments, I do have all might augments here since this is DPS, so all the red ones are here. And for my iconic battle tank builds, I have it being 2 dominance and 4 might to add to the DPS aspect of this build. So I will throw that out there real quick. That's my full tank build. Here's the spec to it. I have super powered. Um, I have 10 in critical healing chance and magnitude, and then I have 20 in precision, 56 in health, and then I'm max dominance since this is my full tank build. When it comes to earth tanking, since it is kind of like a precision based build, you will need full dominance when it comes to being a tank. Um, the loadout consists of gemstone shield reinforced basically for an artifact that I use, and then I have brick golem, the soothing sands for the healing, and then I have fortified golem 4 brick, and then a grab or any kind of pull. Like I have the earthen grip pull as an option, and then if I need to go into a single target, I have the memorizing lasso, which is a good single target, probably the best single target possible in the game, in my opinion. And then I do also have, when it comes to earth, there is something called Pebble Blast, which is a taunt that you can also use. I've been told to use a lot for taunting bosses when it comes to being a single target. It is a really good one that I've heard. Um, but the reason why I do have my weapon buff, basically the reinforced, on is because I do utilize Clarion shield, and then that stacks with the weapon buff because you will need the weapon buff for it, to activate. And then I have mystical symbol or mystic symbol of the 7, which is basically a solid healing part of an artifact, and it increases defense by 5% for each enemy within 5 yards, increase healing. So that's the reason why I have the specs into the healing crits. So I have the artifact being a part of that. Same with Clarion on the healing aspect. And then I have Everyman prototype for more of the defensive aspect, and my health being converted into the defense. So it comes hand in hand when it comes to tanking. And I love it. Tanking is kind of fun. It is hard, it is rough, but it is fun at the same time. And for my augments, I do have them being dominant. So, because again, tank roll, you need max dominance. Then I have this build, which is the build that I'm going to kind of really try to specify when it comes to anything, because this build you can utilize for both PvE and PvP. And to kind of give that example for PvP, I do have PvP videos out, and I am using this loadout, and I have PvP videos with Multiverse to where I'm in his lives and I got my end of it, and then I am a part of some of his lives when it comes to PvP, or the majority of them. So if you go watch some of his Checkmate PvP lives, you will see those, or you will see me in the majority of the matches. Shout out to him for doing that, because PvP is something that is like very well put when it comes to this game. even though I wish they were to kind of update it more. But at the same time, it is what it is. We can't really control what they want to do with it. But for this build, instead of being brawling to specify the weapons, so this build I am brawling because it is an iconic for Superman. It is brawling as an NPC. Same for my DPS build. Um, he is brawling. And I will say this, if you do have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section and I will answer them. If I missed anything or if you have a question about something that I did not go over. But back to this build. For this build, I have one-handed to kind of help out with the precision aspect and the weapon buff because it is hybrid, and that is something that I'm about to actually go over when it comes to spec. So I am spec one-handed in this build, max, without mastery, and then for this build, I'm spec hybrid. So this one's gonna focus more on weapon and superpower, but it works because I'm brick and it helps out. Even in my opinion, like I've been told a lot, hybrid is the best way to go when it comes to utilizing brick, because it's more based off precision. When it comes to using brick, from what I've heard, I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Um, but I did spec hybrid because this build is based off the weapon. Like I do utilize my weapon a lot when it comes to this build. And I rarely use superpower. And for this build with the stats, I am critical healing chance and mag again. And then I have restoration, health, and I'm 396 dominance. Now I know I need to spec more into health, and that's slowly going to become higher the more skill points I gather. So that will become a thing. Now the reason why I have resto is because for the artifacts, I'm using Clarion. Now Clarion, from what I've been told, it helps when it comes to restoration because it is more of a healer-based artifact more than a tank artifact. But I heard it does hit harder when it comes to the restoration. So if you spec restoration, it will hit harder when it's activated, to put it simply. And I do have Red Tornado again because Red Tornado, to kind of specify what Red Tornado is as an artifact, most people probably know it is specified for battle tanking. So it is not a full tank build. So like I have it on my iconic battle tank loadout for solar flare aspect, but it is an actual battle tank build, like, or more like not an actual battle tank build, but like an actual battle tank artifact. So it's specified for battle tanking. Yes, it does say tank roll and everything like that, but this is a specific type of artifact. Like lots of artifacts are specified for tanking, like Mystic Symbol is 7. This is one of the main artifacts you need when it comes to tanking. This one you can utilize for a regular tank build, but it's preferred to be a battle tank. And this build is the build that I utilize when it comes to lots of things, or the majority of the things I do on my channel with content. And to just go over the metagenes and augments real quick: 2 dominating and 4 mighty. But this build is the build that I utilize a lot now when it comes to soloing. This is the build I utilize for PvP as well. Does it work through PvP? Yes, it is pretty good doing out PvP. If you watch my videos for PvP, or if you watch the Multiverses live and you saw me in them, whatever the case may be, you will know like this build is a pretty solid build when it comes to PvP. And I will also throw this out there when it comes to my builds. If you find something that works for you or better for you compared to my builds, like you can use my builds as a base for your own persona. Like I have a friend of mine or a league member of mine, I gave him this build and he ended up tweaking it a little bit, finding out a little bit more, changing it up a bit to where he used to have, and it's been working for him perfectly fine. If you find any loopholes in the builds to where it's like I made a mistake, just leave down in the comments below later on in time when you try it out or utilize it, and so on and so forth. But my next build is a build that I actually used to utilize a lot for tanking when it came to my full tank. Like I replaced it for my full tank for a little while, but it's basically the same thing as my last build. Now, this build it's kind of on a support tank, so I actually kind of learned that the way I have it set up is more of a support tank role for this one specifically, or more or less both, but this one specifically, when I go into elites, like for example, the Neurons Underworld Elite, I won't be able to solo the elite um, in this build, but I will be able to assist. Like if there was another tank in there, like a rage tank or a fire tank or an atomic tank, or an ice tank, I will be able to manage one of the bosses in the first mission or the first boss when it comes to that. But I will not be able to solo that mission or more or less that first boss when it comes to this build because it's more spec as a support tank than a full tank. But it's basically the same thing as the last build. Just kind of think about it as I added a pull to it. You know what I mean? And I do have a single target um, option as well. I do have memorizing lasso on there and hard light shield for another shield, just in case. And I do have my stat points spec'd out the same way. It's except this one's more on the precision end, but I think my last one was also precision. Yeah, okay, so these two are both on precision, but I think my other one was resto. I'm sorry, not precision. Resto instead. Yeah, this one was resto because I use this one more for PvP when it comes to things. But this build is basically the same thing as this one. It's just I use this one when it comes to elite support tank or um, something like if my full tank build can't get through. Because I will say when I used to try to full tank this elite or the Neurons Underworld Elite, this build would not be able to get through it. Like it was basically glass when it came to the first boss. Um, until I ended up switching to the other build, and then I managed to sit here and get through it better and more when I came to another tank. So this build's more on the support end when it comes to tanking, but it is basically the same thing as the last one. Now this build used to be my full battle tank build. I will say that, but I'm pretty sure I stopped utilizing it that way. Nope, still here. Okay, I thought so. I stopped utilizing it because I have the other build now. This build is basically my full battle tank build, to where lots of people battle tank differently than I do, but it's spec hybrid, and then I have 10 critical healing chance magnitude, 36%, and then I have a little bit in the might and power, not a lot. Then I have 36 health and then 400 dominance. The allies I have are Batman, but I have four from the shadows to add the might and precision, and then I have Cyborg for the power aspect, again crypto for single target. But if you don't have crypto and you want to bet like an AoE ally, I will say Superman himself, or more or less the NPC version of Superman, is the best ally when it comes to AoE. And in my opinion, crypto is the best single target. Just kind of throw that out there for allies. Now for this build, since this one is more of a full battle tank build, I used to have Linear's Amulet on there and E-Bond with it, or more or less Linear's Amulet with Red Tornado and Mystic. But I got tired of the fact that Linear's Amulet was killing me off a lot, and I didn't like that aspect where it's like I'm trying to do the most damage, but then it's like you're killing me at the same time. I don't like it. But this build consists of Mystic Symbol, Red Tornado, and Candle of Neuron. And again, for Red Tornado, it's a battle tank artifact. So whenever you see somebody utilizing it, it's more or less them being in a battle tank format. Or if they don't have a tank rule artifact ready, they might put it in there, because I have done it before to where it's like I don't have a third 200 artifact for tanking, so I used Red Tornado as like a substitute just to put it in there, you know. But this spec's a little bit different. This one is also brawling. Like I could make this one minor, but this one is also brawling. So not this build hasn't changed. I just changed the style of it, so I know the style of it on my old video looks pretty different compared, but it is the same build. Like, it is the same style build. Now, I will also for this build, just throw the allies out there because I almost forgot the allies. The allies I utilize here are Crypto, Superman, and Cyborg. Now, I use Superman because he has something called Inspiring Breakout, and whenever you use Soothing Sand, you will get an extra shield. So if you want an extra shield, you can use the Superman ally for that. And then I have Cyborg again. since Earth is a power-hungry power, I do have him having power recovery on, and he is a passive ally, so it's a passive ally or passive power recovery. But you would always have to make sure for him your base generator mods were above, or more or less, yeah, I think it was more above 50% when it comes to having him actually do the power recovery. So always just make sure. It's kind of like pay your taxes to the house. You know what I mean? Make sure your taxes are good and you'll get your power. But that's basically all of my builds so far. Now, all my other builds that I have are more or less on my other styles that I have. They're basically all this one. And because I don't utilize a lot of my styles, but I do have them set up. For example, another one just for fun, I have Clark Kent build, but he only has a few things on him because, like I said, I like to be as close to the NPC or more or less Superman. I try to be the best iteration of Superman that I can be on this game. And I only have Frost Breath, Heat Vision, and then I have Whirlwind, which is mainly his spin to turn into Superman. I have Crypto on there. I left the gear on there as well. I would take the gear off, but I do have the gear on there as well. Because at the end of the day, even though he's Clark Kent, he is very durable still. All my AUGs are DPS. My specs, same thing. Allies, same thing. I think I just have Flash on here just to get out of combat faster than normal. Which is basically what he is for. So like if you were in combat and you wanted to get out of combat quicker, that's what he's for. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my builds. I do tend to switch off when it comes to builds, like just to kind of throw it out there, like some of my builds I will end up utilizing or showing out more when it comes to multiverse going live and doing checkmate PvP. I will end up like wearing this one the majority of the time, but like if I don't feel like utilizing this one, I want to show off a certain style, I'll like go to save the build to another style and put it on that style, whatever the case may be. But that's basically all my new builds. I will say all my old videos are still validated to this day to where you can utilize them if you want to, or utilize them as a base form when it comes to anything you want to do when you're a tank or battle tank or DPS. So those loadouts and augments and artifacts, those are all still pretty good for me when it comes to being or more or less when it comes to being a tank or a DPS or a battle tank or whatever it comes to what you want to do when it comes to being that kind of role. So all those videos are utilized, and those are really good still. They're just all different styles. Like I said, like my old my full battle tank build, I just changed the look up, but it didn't change. My loadout didn't change or anything like that. Same with this build, like the loadout changed, but like the spec and the stats never changed. My DPS build, it stayed the same. Only thing that changed was the loadout, but that loadout is still utilized well for DPS when it comes to having a DPS loadout, so that you can still use that loadout. But yeah, and I will say if you do enjoy watching me solo and everything like that, and you always wondered how or why I'm so strong or how I can get so strong or how I'm so strong, whatever the case may be, and you got inspired to want to solo, now you can, because I just basically gave you a blueprint or the builds that I utilize to do what I do. Now, I will say for this, you, like I said earlier, use it to your ability to where you can utilize it for yourself. And if you find anything different that you feel like is better, like for example, this loadout specifically, you might want to use Whirlwind Pool. And to put Whirlwind Pool into perspective, you might want to use Whirlwind Attack. Sorry, I said the name wrong. You might want to use this instead of Low Pressure, and that's fine. You might want to use Jackhammer instead of Localized Tremor, which is also fine. It's all preference. This is just what I use. This is just basically, I actually destroyed more than I thought I did. But you can utilize it in any way, shape, or form. Now, for this build and my DPS build on loadout, I'm going to show you the Legends PvP version of how I came up with it. Like I'm basically going to show you the actual. So let me actually queue into Legends practice real quick. Go to events and go to Legends and then Superman and then go into it. And that's also to show you if you ever want to practice Legends PvP. This is how you do it. You would go to the event tab, click Legends practice, go to Legends PvP, select which character, and then you're in. And if you ever want to look at loadouts like I did, this is also how. So as you can see, he's wearing his classic suit. Now if I were to change to my DPS, but I can't because I actually am him. This is basically what I based it off of. So my low pressure is basically this move. It's basically a decoy. My localized trimmer for Earth is basically this move. And then obviously swoop attack, frost breath, heat vision. Now, I don't have this move, which is his super breath. I wish we honestly had it as a move in this game. Same with vacuum spin. This is another move I feel like should have been a flight move to begin with when the game came out. But this move I use low pressure for. This move I just have a shield in place for. But like earlier, I have localized trimmer on my DPS and my battle tank build, or more or less my main build. Now I also have explosive detonator, and this is the reason why I have explosive detonator, because the adds juggle up into the air, and obviously we all know swoop attack, basically a lunge, a flying lunge, breathing breath, heat vision. That's basically his loadout, and then if we leave here, and excuse me, but if we leave here and go back to mine, and let's go to the House of Legends real quick to kind of show you that this is basically my loadout. Now, which I'm going the wrong way, but I'm going the right way at the same time, or more or less the longer way. And I will say again, like with the builds, this is just my preference, but I like to have fun with the game. You know, I don't kind of seek to be the best or the strongest or whatever the case may be. I'm just doing what I see fit for the character. You know what I mean? Trying to be the best version of Superman that I can be out of many others in this game, and many other different variants and whatever the case may be. I'm just trying to be the best version that I can be. But to keep it simple, my build compared to the NPCs, instead of super breath, I have a shield. It looks like I have a visitor watching, and instead of his vacuum spin, I have a low pressure. And then instead of his ground pound, I have localized trimmer and explosive detonator for the add juggle. And then obviously the rest of the three, swoop attack, frost breath, heat vision, and then let's get out of combat real fast. Switch to DPS build, it's the same thing, but it's just this time it's me being in the classic form. Now, to be like the NPC, to put it simply, same logistics. Obviously my heat vision pops, or my basically my Omega totality popped, basically giving me the heat vision animation effect that I like. And then sometimes after that I like to pop the heat vision, low pressure, swoop attack, frost. And it's that easy and that simple. And if you want to see the damage, let me just go here, go to combat. I'm gonna let that one reset, but more or less let's start the damage here. So I'm gonna utilize the loadout for a little bit. As you can see the numbers on it, just grow and grow. So it's been a couple of seconds. whatnot. I rarely use it anymore, but you can if you want to. But let's see the damage from here for the main build. Once the heat vision kicks off, and I'm actually got a combat as well, so I can switch builds. Damage for that: 3 mil, 300, 131. Just from that little bit. Now for the DPS end, same loadout, just spec and DPS. Harder. And I do also have a trinket for this one that ups my might precision weaponized rating. Insane, but I do have my local explosive detonator in, so I'll pop that to damage, which I like to do all the time. It helps, you know. That for a little bit. Go. And that'll be this build. So this build's damage from that: 5,452,320, give or take. If I were to keep going on my other build, same amount of damage or a little bit less. Now for this build, basically doing PvE, PvP battle tank build, if I pop the weapon buff, that shield that just popped up is Clarion. That damage, got the Superman shield, brick power, and then just work precision. And the edge, not the edge, the sparring part. Just working combos on it. Again, weapon buff damage. There. Pop. There. Once Clarion runs out, I will here. There's that. And I'll just let the ground damage finish out. From there. That one was 5,856,226. Or 5,856,226 damage, with power being 19K88. So give or take. And then obviously if I were to sit here and heal, if I were to be in a fight, you would have saw the healing difference as well. And just to kind of give this loadout here: gemstone shield, reinforced brick. I have totem, fortified golem, soothing sands for this one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And if anything, if I were to go get my battle tank just before I decide to finish this off, I'm gonna grab my battle tank build, or more or less my full battle tank to say specifically. And another thing I kind of found out when I will say this while I'm grabbing this build and about to show you this build, with brick tanking compared to aftershock earth tanking, and I'll kind of specify what I mean by that. So basically, all my builds are brick tanking now. So every single time you see this guy, when I do this, and that little guy, that little crystal guy here, whenever he comes out, or if you were to see the DPS version of him, being crystal, where is she? This one right here, crystal gold. If I were to switch him out for her, which is the DPS version of her, it's counted as earthen bond, basically being in the description of it, it basically is brick golem uses superpowers to restore and defend himself. You gained earthen bond, transferring a portion of your incoming damage to brick while not blocking. Does not stack with stone skin. And what it means by stone skin is, let me actually take brick off the loadout and let me actually throw on reinforced, just to kind of show you a quick example. Stone skin is basically jackhammer and anything besides jackhammer. So jackhammer is basically that. Now the spikes and shards that just showed up on my body, that's basically the stone skin that stacks with a lot of earth moves when it comes to being aftershock, or more or less stone skin. And a lot of moves do that, so Jackhammer is probably the best move. As it says here, tank roll, you gain stone skin, increasing your defense by 55%, while not blocking. Does not stack with earth and bond. Each additional hit increases duration of stone skin. So basically stating, if I were to have brick out, I will not be getting defense that comes with it because I'm obviously using brick, so it doesn't stack. But if I wasn't using brick, I'm getting all that defense. But I've kind of found out and learned that having brick is way better than aftershock. But I will also say, when it comes to being a brick tank user for Earth, you have to keep brick alive, which is why I have this move here, Fortify Golem, which basically gives him power because you have to keep him alive. And when you kill him, or if he dies off into a fight or mid-fight, you will lose completely. You know what I mean? Like, I won't say you'll die immediately because you're in tank role, but you will end up losing health faster if he dies, or dying faster when he dies, because he's connected to you. Like, a lot of the stuff that you have, like it's specified, is going to him. So like any damage that you take from the boss is actually going to him instead. Like it states, transferring a portion of your incoming damage to brick while not blocking. So if you were to just fight and not block, he's getting some of your damage, or a portion of your damage that's getting utilized. But if he dies off from all the damage you're taking, you will eventually die yourself, depending on what you're running or what you're in. Some case scenarios, you can bring him back, like, immediately. More or less all the case scenarios, you can bring him back immediately. But just to kind of show you my full battle tank build, here, and then it's literally more or less just jackhammers in there. And I used to use amulet, so like if I would have realized amulet at one point, you would have saw my health start depleting because of amulet. But if I didn't utilize amulet, I would have popped the finisher to reset the stacks of amulet, and then go right back into jackhammer. But just from that little bit of damage, we'll see how much it did, because jackhammer does stack up damage fast, and that's probably one of the best portions. Damage 3,864,101, power 13K478. So it's not bad. But that's basically all my builds, and what I utilize them, it really is specified for specific things, or different things, or different scenarios at hand. So it's really all a preference. Like, if you do want to kind of start trying to solo more often when it comes to playing this game more and having fun as an earth tank power, now you can. You know what I mean? Now you definitely can. Now you know all the builds. Now you know what you can utilize. Or excuse me. Now you know what you can utilize to be able to do so, to where it's just like you see what my builds can do. You know what I mean? So it's like I won't spread or give you false information when it comes to what I utilize and how I utilize it. And when I do, there's always something that I will show you or prove to you to back it up. And if you have been watching my content, if you have been seeing all the solos that I've done and all of the PvP matches that I've been in, you know this build will get you through, and it will hold its own when it comes to PvP. This build will get you through soloing a lot of the bosses, and in this game, especially Superman Rogue Gallery bosses specifically, like I did. So you will get through a lot with this build, and yeah, it'll take you. It'll definitely be a heavy journey, because I actually just recently gave a friend this build. I mean, he's been getting the itch to start soloing things like I do now. So it's just like I inspired him to go through what he wanted to do, or more or less I inspired him to start soloing things when I gave him a build to be able to do so, and he ended up tweaking it himself to turning it into his own thing, and he's still out here doing the soloing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I gave it to a lot of my league members and friends, and they have their own journeys with it now. So they're gonna be okay, you know. And if you want to be okay too and enjoy yourself with soloing bosses, or being able to solo bosses, whatever the case may be, now you can. And I will also say this disclaimer out here, just to kind of throw it out there, because lots of people will ask me my skill point count. I am at 529 skill points. If you are lower, take your time when it comes to going into soloing things and running things. Like, it will not be how I do it because, or how I am capable of doing it, because of the fact that like some people are at 200 something skill points or 300 something skill points, but at the same time, when it comes to skill points, when you get to 200, 300 skill points or 400 skill points, you will be in that I can solo bosses aspect or persona when it comes to the builds, depending on which one you utilize, if you utilize all of them. So you will be in that persona of I can solo bosses. You know what I mean? Now, I will also say as well, for different tank powers, the spec might be very different or very similar or the same. For example, fire. When it comes to fire, it's the best tank power in my opinion because of the fact of it has self heals unlike other tank powers. The only other tank power that has self healing like fire is atomic, but fire has way better self healing than atomic. And their spec could be like very different compared to an Earth's, because Earth again is a precision based power. Fire might be more of a might based power, or dominance or restoration based power because of all the healing. So it really all depends on what the case scenario at hand is or what kind of tank power you are. I won't say this spec will work, nor will I say it won't work for your power. So it really all depends. Like, if you want to try it out and you're a fire tank, or if you want to try it out and you're an atomic tank or an ice tank, um, or a rage tank, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. But if you want to, go for it. I would say test it out first before you actually fully utilize it, though. But if you are an earth tanker like I am, here's the builds to do so. This is how you can utilize it in my perspective or my persona um, of being an earth tank. You have a lot of people who have it differently than me. You know what I mean? Like, I know someone who's been helping me. Like, all my builds, I've been getting help with, or more or less getting information on. Still, to this day, I'm still getting people like, you can spec it this way, you can do it this way, you can have it this way, this, then they're like, lots of people have a different preference when it comes to being an earth tank, and I feel like that's the best thing about tanking, more or less on the earth side. Like, I feel like, in my personal opinion, earth is the best skill based tank power when it comes to tanking, because of the fact that it has so many different varieties and options that you can utilize with it, and it's proven to have a lot of different variety and utilizations, because lots of people would sit here and say, no, you want to have an earth power and go full on prec, like full on precision with it. Some people would be like, no, you might want to spec precision and restoration with it. No, you might want to spec might into it. No, you want to go full dom with it. Some people will be like, I'm going aftershock, I don't use bricks. Some people are like, no, I use bricks. So like, there's a lot of different aspects when it comes to earth, and I feel like that's the reason why it's the best skilled tank power in my personal opinion. Disagree to agree, or agree to disagree, but I stand on my opinion. I will say that now. That's my opinion. I won't say it's the greatest tank power though, because I had my moments to where I felt like glass on certain days, and I will say that as another disclaimer or warning when it comes to being an earth power. You will run out of power fast, and you will have days to where you do feel like glass when it comes to fighting things. Like, I will say that now. Like, a lot of my solos, I will admit, they weren't first time attempts. They were not first time attempts. Like, for example, Dakota City Chemo and the Sub Avatar Brainiac. They were not first time attempts. They were not. They took a little bit before I can get to them, or defeat them, or beat them. It did take a little bit. But other than that, and I'm pretty sure I have a lot of other solos that were literally like, it took a first time, and I'm pretty sure y'all can catch on to the ones that did. I will also say this though, Brimstone in the Apocalypse, or Harley Quinn versus Apocalypse, that was a first attempt, first night, first day solo, and same with Steppenwolf Open World. That was same night, same day of release. So those are a different perspective when it comes to my builds. Some bosses you can solo as soon as they release. Some of them might take a little bit. Like, another example, Neuron. If I wanted to, I feel like I could solo Neuron. But at the same time, do I feel like soloing Neuron? Is he a Superman based character for Superman, or more or less is he a Superman based enemy? No, so I won't. That's just me. But I feel like I do have that ability and capability to solo him if I wanted to. But in another example, I recently soloed the Doomsday Raid. If you haven't seen that video, highly recommend. If you haven't seen my Kandor Central Tower raid video, I also soloed through that raid. Highly recommend watching. And yeah, that's literally like, I have a lot of videos that just kind of prove how strong my builds are. And lots of you seen it. If you've been watching and keeping up with my videos, you've seen it all. So the builds that I'm handing you or giving to you, you know they're legit. Other than that, I know I don't ask this a lot. I don't ask for this too often, but I will say, if you do like the video, just leave a like, comment into the video if you have any questions or whatever the case may be. If you like the content, leave a like and or subscribe. Leave post notifications on to the videos. And yeah, and I hope you enjoy the builds. Again, I hope you enjoy the builds, and I hope your journey with the builds leads you a long way and they take you very far. And always just remember, use them for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And always fight the good fight for truth and justice. You know, never fight and utilize these builds for wrong, which I will also say, I can't sit here and stop you. But just know, if you utilize it, just know, I'll be there. I'll be there. But bye everyone.